welcome back to the Knead Bread Bakery YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making a raspberry tart. We're going to start by putting 1.25 cups of white all-purpose flour into a bowl. I'm using a medium-sized food processor. Don't use one too small because then it will not be big enough to handle all the dough, and you don't need to use a giant one because there isn't enough dough to fill a huge one, but use a pretty decent-sized food processor. So we're also going to put in a tablespoon of white sugar. As you can see right now, we're just putting in the white sugar. And we're also going to be putting in 3 to 4 cracks of sea salt as usual. That's 3/4 teaspoon if you don't have a salt cracker. And we're just going to blitz that all up until it's evenly combined, about 30 seconds.
Yes.
Now that it's all combined, I'm just going to put in 1/2 cup of cold butter. It should be freezing cold. And blitz that up again. And so now that it kind of holds its shape, when you hold it in your hand and squeeze it, you're going to stream in water. So I'm using ice cold water, and it should be pretty cold, otherwise it's not going to keep the dough cold. And you're just going to stream that in very slowly. You only need about 1/4 cup, just until it comes together, but still is a little crumbly. And just mix it up until all the water is. So I used way too much water. Do not use the amount of water that I used because I used too much. And I'm trying to now dry it out a little bit by kneading it with a bunch of flour. And that seemed to work pretty well. So if you use too much water, don't stress. Just knead it with some more flour. So now that it's a solid dough, we're just going to press it down onto a piece of cling wrap or plastic wrap. You could use wax paper. I hope that you could use wax paper, but plastic wrap is really best. And you're just going to put that in the fridge for an hour. So now that it's out of the fridge, it's really hard because it's been in the fridge. And you're going to take a well-floured surface and your rolling pin and just try to indent it, just to stretch it out a little bit until it's soft enough so you can roll it out on your own. So this is how it looks so far, and we're just going to pinch up those cracks because when they get bigger, they're just going to get worse, and you don't want the cracks to get bigger because that'll just make a huge crack in all of your crust, and that's not good. So we're just pinching those together, and we're also going to do a quarter turn and flip every 30 seconds. Didn't mean to say 30 minutes. And that's just so it's like an even distributed width. So now that I have my big circle, I'm going to put it onto a baking sheet lined with aluminum foil and take my raspberries. And so I'm putting them stem down in the middle of the pie crust. And there's no pan or anything. Just put them in the middle of the pie crust. So now that we have all of them in, you want to leave about a 2-inch border for there to be enough room to fold it over. So I'm just folding it over the edge, and that usually keeps the raspberries in. But if you find that you don't have enough to hold the raspberries in, you can always take a couple out from the outside, and that should give you more room to work with. Okay, so now I'm taking 1 mixed up egg in a bowl, and I'm just going to use a pastry brush to brush it on the outside of the pie crust, and this is just going to give it a really nice golden brown look once it's fully baked, and that'll be really good for how the pie crust looks. So now that it's all around the outside, I switched it to a pan with sides because I felt like that would be better so it doesn't overflow. It didn't overflow in the end, but just in case. And we're going to sprinkle it with a generous amount of sugar. Don't be stingy with it. It needs to have a lot because that brings out the natural juices of the raspberries, and that just makes it really nice and juicy. You could do it without this, but it's really good. And it also helps the crust look a little better too. So we're just sprinkling a bunch on top of the raspberries, and it's going to melt down and look really delicious at the end once we've baked it. So now we're going to put it into a 425-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. And mine only needed about 21 minutes. But yours may need a little bit more. So just check on it after about 20 minutes to make sure it's not burning. And yeah, that's how it looked after about 20 minutes. And it's really nice. The crust is golden brown. As you can see, the crust is golden brown and the raspberries, they're not mushy. but they're holding their shape, but all the juices have been let out, and it's going to be delicious. And this is the final product. Oh my god, guys, it was so good and delicious and juicy and just amazing. You have to make this because it's one of the best tarts or pies I've ever made.